You're listening to the Served Up Show, a podcast that features inspiring beverage professionals and topic experts that share their passions through meaningful content. Your hostesses, Bridget Albert, is best known as the Market Fresh Mixologist, an industry mentor with over 25 years of experience. And I'm Julie Milroy, best known for my passion for leading change and helping others grow in their careers. Grab a cocktail and sit back. Let's learn how we can make a positive impact in our industry.
Hey y'all, it's Bridget here. In this episode, we are delighted to have a very special guest, Vance Henderson, the National Ambassador of Hendrick's Gin. Vance's journey is a testament to the power of community support and personal determination. From humble beginnings, he has risen to become one of the most celebrated change makers in the beverage industry. Join us as Vance shares his remarkable personal story, how his community rallied behind him, ensuring he had the opportunity to pursue education and follow his passion. From those early days of support to his current role as National Ambassador of Hendrick's Gin, Vance's journey is one of resilience, inspiration, and innovation. Tune in as Vance reflects on his experiences, the impact of his work, and his hopes for the future of our industry. Get ready to be inspired by Vance's incredible journey and insights. So go grab yourself your favorite Hendrick's Gin cocktail, and let's welcome Vance to our show. Vance, welcome to Served Up. I am thrilled to have you on our show today.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for being on. Can you tell our listeners really what brought you into the hospitality industry?
Ooh, hospitality industry. That's a long ways back. I didn't have as many gray hairs as I have now, Bridget, for sure. Hospitality. I think it was always kind of ingrained in me, hospitality. I grew up in Southern New Jersey and was always running around my church, honestly. And there was always things to do and to support. So that kind of helpfulness, supporting events and other people was kind of ingrained at a young age, to be very honest. And it kind of stuck with me throughout, my growing up and leaving Southern Jersey, coming to Washington, D.C., going to college, doing like most, getting that kind of server job, host job, while you're in college, and started as a host at a restaurant that no longer exists in Union Station here. And kind of cut my teeth there, and then just kind of grew and progressed to bigger organizations, more corporate organizations, more craft organizations that really grew me to where I am today. So I'd say it kind of started at home, that hospitality and supporting and helping others, and that kind of stuck with me throughout.
Can you tell us where you went to college?
Yeah, I went to Howard University here in Washington, D.C., where I live. HU, anyone out there who went to Howard would certainly know that call. Went there, came down to D.C., and like a lot of folks, never left. Certainly I'm a transplant. I've been here now 20 some odd years, a little over 20. I won't say exactly how much, but yeah, it's been a wonderful, wonderful ride here.
And then did you ever expect as a college student to be where you are today? Like, what were your goals and dreams? Like, what were you studying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't, honestly. It's funny because today, having been in brand marketing, not just hospitality, but brand marketing specifically for about, I think it's about 11 or 12 years now, I still wake up and pinch myself some days of just the thought of how far I've come, the things that I've seen, the places that I've gone, the people that I've met, and all, if not a very, very high percentage of that, is due to this industry, is due to hospitality, is due to the work that I've done over the years. So in college, I did not come down to DC for hospitality. What did I do? I came on a full scholarship, thank goodness, to any school I wanted to go to, and I chose Howard.
Wow.
Yeah.
A full scholarship to any school you wanted to go to. Let's pause for 1 second and talk about that, because that is a huge accomplishment.
It's interesting because I think anyone who knows me on Vance, the beverage side, probably couldn't imagine Vance, the pre-DC church kid side. And anyone pre-DC or Vance beverage industry side could not imagine me on this side. So it's really, really interesting. Yeah, I was a super involved kid, was always doing things around the community, was always around the church, and not so much like Bible toting, beating people over the head, preachy type of kid. I just was one of those people, very honestly, who had a lot going on in the home life that wasn't that great. So I looked for any escape outside of my home, honestly. So that was throwing myself into anything there was to do in school, throwing myself into anything there was to do extracurricular and in the community. And the church, as I was very close to my grandmother, was one that was always there. So I directed like any and every choir that we had, any type of meeting that was there, I was in there. Any type of, if there was honestly a funeral, I was there to support. If there was a wedding, I was there to support. If you needed extra hands for a pallbearer or, someone to carry flowers out, I was there. If you needed extra usher in your wedding. It also did not hurt that I lived 2 blocks from my church. So I think they recognized, honestly, that I was a kid that was very eager, very hungry, very open to support and do what needed to be done in the community, but also was one that may not have had the means to get to college. So it really was a blessing.
Yeah, that's really, really incredible. Would you say then early on, your grandmother was one of your earlier mentors?
100%. Even to this day, my
really,
she's my
heart. I love to hear that. I love to hear that.
That's my girl. She's about 83, 84 now, and kind of the health things are starting to catch up with her. So I'm kind of back and forth up to New Jersey. But there is not a living person on this earth whom I am closer with. And that's no shade to anyone else. I have a living father, a living mother. I have siblings. I was married. I have a partner. Like it's my grandmother, and not that I'm a grandmother's boy or a mama's boy. It was so instrumental in my shaping, but also me being who I am and the opportunity, to be able to think beyond what my circumstances were. She worked her ass off to be able to afford me any opportunity that was out there. And I'm forever indebted to her, and she has to worry for nothing as long as this earth has her.
That's amazing. What is her name? Do you mind sharing?
Devorah Marie Jameson. That's my girl. That is my girl.
That's incredible.
So yeah, she worked, and the church supported me, and they sent me off to DC, went to Howard. It was great. And like your question, I just never would have thought that hospitality would be where I ended up. I went to school. I did communications, radio, TV, and film. I'm an actor at heart. If it were up to me, honestly, and it's between me and you, Britt, and then the millions and millions of people who will hear this, going to school on a scholarship and my heart being with acting and being in front of the camera, and at the time feeling so obligated as a young Vance to make people happy, I felt that going into acting then wasn't good enough for all of those people who gave donations and money and all those things to send me off to school. I felt then that I needed to give them a little more oomph behind whatever degree I went for. So honestly, instead of going into theater, acting, being in front of the camera, I went into communications, radio, TV, and film to understand behind the camera. And I did I double minored and a bunch of other things, African American studies and secondary education. But yeah, that was a decision I made, a young Vance, being concerned about what other people thought. We all have our struggles and insecurities, but that certainly was one that I can think of very clearly back then. I was like, man, that doesn't seem professional enough. It doesn't seem good enough. It doesn't seem like have weight behind it. Could pick anywhere you wanted to go. You went to Washington, D.C. and you went into acting.
Do you feel, Vance, that, having that talent, because it is a talent and a skill, to be able to act and to have that love for theater, do you feel that it serves you in your role today?
Absolutely.
Hendricks?
Absolutely. I am a person that I thrive best when I'm juggling many things. And I'm also a person that I enjoy doing many things. I like to have, many balls juggling and plates spinning, at one time. And I've done many different jobs over the years. Usually if I have an icebreaker, I'll do like, some people say 2 truths and a lie. I'll do like 3 truths and a lie, right? Actually, how about this, Bridget? 3 truths and a lie. Okay. I have done all of these jobs and or roles, right? Which one is the lie out of these 3 or 4? I've been a florist. I have been a funeral director. I have been a custodian. And I've been a kindergarten teacher. Which one is the lie?
A funeral director?
All of them are the truth.
All of them are the truth.
It's the twist. Yeah, I've done many.
How in the hell were you a funeral director? We've got a lot to unpack on today's show.
Odd and peculiar things. And all of those and so much more helps shape the type of ambassador that I am. They help shape my role because we do many things. It's not, just, and I also lead with not all brand ambassador roles are the same. I'm very fortunate to work with a company that probably biasly and unbiasedly I feel is the best structured pound for pound role of an ambassador. I'm not saying nothing about pay. I'm not saying anything about perks or whatever. The structure of the role. And if I had to dream of what a brand ambassador would be, I feel that the structure and the layout of what we have is the best. But you do it all. You teach, kind of wrangling kindergartners for those years has helped me over the years with doing classes and working with adult people. Being a florist, you are an event producer as well. So you've got to be able to put, especially on Hendricks, pull flowers together and roses and cucumbers and everything else. You host, you judge, like we said, I was an actor. I was a singer. I've always spoken in front of crowds. I enjoy being on stage. I enjoy the probably one skill that I'll admit is I know how to stir a room. Right. So I know how to get in front of a crowd and stir the energy that's necessary for whatever that space is. And all of that comes from the many different roles that I've done and jobs that I've had,
It really is incredible. I've seen you on stage, obviously, even just as soon as like a week ago at Speed Rack, which you host. And I do want to talk about Speed Rack. Before we do, though, let's start with Hendricks. Can you tell our listeners? So our listeners are from 60 countries. They're from all over the world. And so they may not be familiar with what a brand ambassador is, or may not be familiar with Hendrick's Gin. We have a lot of cocktail curious folks that tune in. So if you can give them kind of an overview of what the gin is, what your role is, and what is a brand ambassador.
Sure. So Hendrick's Gin is our odd and refreshing gin from Girvan, Scotland, oddly infused, as we say, with cucumber and rose essence. I often lead in my classes that no other gin tastes like Hendrick's because no other gin is made like Hendrick's. I'll never say what something is that we're better than anything else that's out there, or that we're worse. That's anything that's out there that kind of often irks me when sales reps or brand ambassadors or whomever will put down other brands in order to make theirs and prop theirs up and make theirs seem better. There's no room for that. We all have different palates. We all have different skill sets and tasks when it comes to making cocktails, and all cocktails require different ingredients. So that's first. So yeah, this gin has been around since 1999. That I would say, in conjunction with maybe one or two others, really helped to create what we deem today the super premium category of gin. The reason that we call it and called it odd is because of the way that it's made. Again, that no other gin tastes like it because no other gin is made like it. All of the odd and the whimsy and the potential Victoriana and the whimsical characters and the rose and the cucumber, all of those whimsical, magical, fanciful things you see delivered from the brand world of Hendrick's. They are odd and unusual and curious and all of those things, but they all stem from one place. And that place is how the liquid is made, which was a rarity back in 1999, and certainly still today very rare, is to use two very different stills to create two very different liquids. A Bennett still, this big round copper pot belly, much like mine. I didn't get all of my workouts in during the wintertime, so it's got a round belly, much like mine. And we take 11 different botanicals and we put them into the round belly of that Bennett still. They get a nice gentle boil or a little jacuzzi action, as I like to say. And the liquid or distillate that comes from the Bennett still is very rich, robust, and complex. That's one liquid, in essence, one gin. And then we take those same 11 types of botanicals and we put them into the second still, which is called the Carterhead still. And we put them all the way at the top of the neck, is this big box that we call the flavor basket. We strategically layer them into that basket. And what happens is that those botanicals then infuse the vapor, or they kind of get a little steam bath action. And the liquid that comes from the Carterhead still is very light, very fragrant, and very floral. So again, we're thinking back 20 plus years ago in 1999, that process was unheard of to use two different stills, let alone a gin coming from Scotland. We take those two different liquids that come from the two different stills, and we then blend them together. But they're not yet Hendrick's, just blending those two liquids. It doesn't become Hendrick's until we add the essence of cucumber and rose. So that makes for a gin that is light, that's refreshing, that's floral, that's complex. It has all of these different things that are going on the palate, but at the same time, very much approachable. And that was unheard of in 1999. You know, back then and still today, that's the struggle, the forever struggle of gin, is to change the hearts and minds of that dominant flavor that people have a love-hate relationship with, which is juniper. You know, consumers would say it tastes like trees, or it tastes piney, or it tastes green, or it tastes like Christmas because of that dominant botanical. But you had gins come along like Hendrick's and Sipsmith and so many others, honestly, that just gave this approachable profile. And I would never call these gins introductory gins, because we know that they're not introductory prices. You're going to pay for what you're getting, which is quality. However, the flavor profile and approachability of these particular gins just opened up a door and floodgates for so many new consumers to be able to enjoy and step in without being overwhelmed with the mighty juniper.
Who's Hendrick's? Where'd the name come from?
A lot of people ask that question, but that's one, much like a few other secrets I have in my pocket, or when I'm feeling it, my pocket, that I leave for the searching of the four corners of the Googles. So yeah, it's a lot of whimsy and mystery that's surrounding this wonderful, wonderful brand. And as a brand ambassador, Bridget, for our wonderful listeners out there, I am entrusted with bringing this brand to life, both in activation form, in voice form, in presence form. So I will create, trainings and produce events and activations that lean into and bring to life the very brand worlds that we have in Hendrix. For a long time, we had this whimsical Victoriana. Some people looked at it like steampunky type of old timey with sprinkles of rose and cucumber brand world. And then we started introducing these different expressions, which allowed us to, I say, expand our geniverse. Midsummer solstice, which was kind of more floral and feminine and kind of summertime, midsummer vibes, sweet orange and all of those notes. And then we had lunar, which was like nighttime, celebrated evening flora and botanicals that bloomed at night and reacted differently under the light of the moon than they did during the day. Or Hendrick's Neptunium, which celebrated the magic of the sea and kind of took the whole brand world to the water and on the seas. And we had Floridor last year, which celebrated the gardens and the pollinators, the bees and the butterflies to do all this magical work, that really keep us going, as humans and as a world. And then just 3 days ago, we introduced our latest brand world under the banner of Hendrick's Grand Cabaret, which really celebrates this lush, decadent fruit forwardness, really celebrating stone fruit and the sweet herbaceousness and just the over the top, just outrageousness that you get from just these evening celebrations. So yeah, this just all of these beautiful brand worlds that are supported by wonderful essences and wonderful flavors that tell an amazing new story to the original Hendrix. It's just wonderful.
It must be such a fun brand to be a part of. I absolutely love not only the label, but then, how the innovation behind it is so incredible. And it's really fun to watch, obviously, I follow Hendrix on Instagram, and to see like the cabaret being kind of teased out with the cabaret feathers and, just really getting you curious, like you said, to what's coming next. Can you tell our listeners what it was like for you when you were on stage at the Tales of the Cocktail accepting the award for Best Brand Ambassador last year? And for those who are listening and are not familiar with Tales of the Cocktail, can you tell them what it's all about?
So Tales of the Cocktail, for me and confident for a lot of people within our industry, is, I would say first, it has grown to be our family reunion. If you are fortunate enough to be able to travel to New Orleans every July, it's a family reunion of the who's who in our industry, but also the up and comers. And as I say, the baby bartenders who are just trying to gain and learn so much. It is the preeminent spirits festival and conference on the planet, honestly. It has grown to be this force of education and culture and celebration, all of these things and more wrapped in this culture-rich backdrop of New Orleans. Yes, it's hot as three hells. Yes, you're going to, change clothes 30 times a day. But all of that just helps to paint this wonderful picture of just raw love, right? And Tales has morphed and for lack of better terms, grown up over the years as well. It wasn't always as a big industry juggernaut as it is, but it's been beautiful to see how it has grown again to be more diverse and to be more conscious of culture and more conscious of well-being and mindfulness and all of these different things that are coming into play that aren't just trendy topics to have workshops and events and just, spirit sampling events, but subjects that are key to pushing our industry forward, but also living and thriving in this industry in the best possible way. The truth is that alcohol is not healthy. It is not. No shape or form about it is healthy. However, with this liquid, we're able to create such wonderful experiences and moments and memories. And it is beautiful to see how Tales has grown to be this force of pushing the industry forward and of shaping and showing us how to thrive in this industry with this liquid in a way that is more mindful than it has ever been before. The Spirited Awards win last year was, honestly, it was like the cherry on the cake. And I say that because my journey as a brand ambassador, it wasn't a hard one, but it was one certainly of striving and proving. And there's many things that could go into that. I could come from one angle of, starting on a liqueur. I could come from one angle of being a person of color. It's so many different angles to come from that went into the struggle and the strive, right? And I started in a test program that was geared towards multicultural or African American culture. And at the time, it was getting a particular brand into African American accounts, grow it. This is a segment, an opportunity for volume. And let's test out something and see if we can move the needle. So it was a test. I don't even think it was a serious thought or a serious true program as much as it was just a test. They saw an opportunity and we're going to test. So my whole being at the time was just to test and to run with. And there were legends that I looked up to at the time. It was Charlotte Voisey at William Grant & Sons, who was also a Hendrick's ambassador in the past. Jim Ryan, who was the national ambassador of Hendrick's at the time. And they just were literally out of this world personalities that gave voice to this brand. So I was charged with moving the needle in African American accounts, and I knew it was a test. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love and had this yearning for wanting to be on the inside, not necessarily on the agency, working for an agency on the outside on a test. I wanted to be in. I wanted to have at the end of my email address be at William Grant & Sons. I wanted to be an official ambassador, not an associate. The little nuances of words mattered so much. So I endeavored to anything that I did that represented the role at the time. If it was under the banner of multicultural, I was going to make everything look truly multicultural. Yes, at the heart, the goal is to move the needle within African-American accounts, but my title is literally multicultural associate. So even though I'm going to get the job done and get the win in African-American accounts, but I'm going to make sure that the bartenders that are represented, the consumers that show up in the pictures, all of that looks like everyone, every shape, every color, every creed, anything. So we're going to get the win. But when whomever it was that might have sat around that table back then and looked at the report that I turned in, when they looked at it, they weren't just going to see African American, right? They were going to see, oh, this is everybody. This is general market stuff, but we're getting a win. So I was very strategic with that. And I did that for 2 years. And then the 2 years of working multicultural, an opportunity opened up within William Grant, and it was to be the U.S. ambassador on Drambuie. And for those of you all who don't know Drambuie, Drambuie is a super classic, iconic aged Scotch whiskey liqueur made with herbs and spices and heather honey and whiskey. And one of the classic iconic cocktails that is made with that is called the Rusty Nail. Look it up, make one, do your adjustments, and then taste it again. And I remember asking some ambassadors at the time, I said, hey, it's this role that came open. It's for Drambuie. It's within the company. I'm thinking about going for it. And I'm not going to mention any names, but I remember a few of them saying, don't do it. It's the bottom of the barrel of importance. It has no money, no budget, whatever. And I remember asking, I said, but is it within the company? Is it William Grant and Sons? And they were like, yeah. So I endeavored, if it's for the company, if my email address is going to end with at William Grant and Sons, whatever, I'm going for it. And I went for it and I did it and I got it. And I worked as the U.S. ambassador on Drambuie for 2 years. And you all hear me clearly. I had the time of my life on that brand. It was not, okay, I've arrived back at Hendrick's. I've done a stint at Monkey Shoulder. Drambuie was the worst. I had a blast on par with any other role that I've done. So I did Drambuie for 2 years. And then the company came to me and they said, listen, you've done a great job, but honestly, business-wise, we can use you elsewhere. So they offered me Monkey Shoulder 100% blended malt whiskey. And it was the right career move and it was progression. So I took that role after 2 years and I did that for 2 years. And I had the time of my life swinging and slinging on Monkey Shoulder. The only issue that I share, and it wasn't a big issue, but it was just one that was in one's face. The only issue that I look back at was the fact that I was a Black man working on a brand that had monkey in the name. And globally at the time, they weren't necessarily leaning into monkeys and monkey as the look and the feel, but it was more so the personality of monkey behavior, that playfulness, that cheerfulness, play with your whiskey, all of that. And I got it. But some people didn't understand that, and I still had a blast. So did that for 2 years. And then 2020, the company came to me again and said, listen, we've got to open it on Hendrick's. And we would love for you to come back to Hendrick's and take on the national role. So I came back and it's been 4 years since. So literally it was a full circle brand marketing career journey for me to start somewhere, dream about it, literally dream about having the role, and some odd years later to get the role. And then in 2023 to walk across that stage, and sorry it's taken so long for me to get to this point.
No, take your time.
Walk across that stage after all of the striving and all of the climbing. It was the cherry on top to, if I hadn't worked another day in brand marketing on any other brand, I had the career that I could have dreamed of, because that was literally, as I said, it was a started from the bottom. Now I'm here. It was the steady climb and strive, long road, but steady climb. And I did it, and that, if not for anyone else, was a beautiful kind of ending of the story that I saw it, I wanted it, I worked for it, and I did it. And it was truly beautiful to have won that.
What was it like telling your grandma that you won?
She was very happy. I don't think that she fully understood the award, but I think she certainly understood, with my sharing over the years, my journey. And we've talked, over the years, over times of struggle and, going into, honestly, we're being real, some markets where I wasn't necessarily very welcome, and or the market was very warm to me on whatever brand that I was on. That's just the reality that we live in, and I live in as a person of color. And, having to get over that and to move and to, prove, one, that I knew what I was talking about. I could stir the room. I could change your heart and mind about this liquid. I could send you on such a liquid education experience that you're just buckled up for the ride. And it doesn't make a difference who's delivering the information, So for her, I think, one, she was overwhelmingly happy that I did it, but more so happy of just reflecting on the journey, the years, and literally where I started from to where I am today. So that was wonderful for myself. It was wonderful to see her react, and then seeing her react was even more happy and wonderful for me.
It is such a beautiful story. Do you feel that we're talking about maybe early Vance in your career, really with brand work, that did you get that gut feeling that you're going to keep going, that this isn't just it? Did you get any internal inspiration to keep you kind of sparked in that moment?
Sure. In the moment of being on stage or over the years?
Over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm asking because early on in my career, I remember in my bartending career, and this is a really long time ago, this is like early 90s,
Stop it.
But I remember having a really shit day and saying, but this isn't it. This is not where I will land. I feel it in my gut. I'm going to get through today, and I'm going to keep pushing. Like I felt it. Like something was like, I felt it. I felt being pushed beyond where I was at.
Yeah, I feel I've always been motivated. I don't think for me in the last 10 years, 8 to 10 years, there was a time where I wanted to seek something else or figured this would be a springboard to something else or whatnot. I've done a lot of things. I did a lot of things before, stepping into these shoes, I had a catering company. I've had a bar. I had a restaurant. Like I've had things. People out there, you wouldn't believe the things that I've done. So looking beyond that, and then even the times that maybe where I didn't feel the best or didn't necessarily have the best day, I still was very much motivated to stay on the path that I was on, because I knew for me, not that it wasn't always about the award, right? A lot of it was just about this period, and I don't know when it switched, but there certainly was a period of proving, right? Of wanting to prove whomever, even if they existed or didn't exist, wrong, to prove to them that I could, right? And some people may get it and some people may not get it. And it's not all about color, but if you're not necessarily a person of color, there's some things that they just come with the skin that you wear, in the corporate world. And whether it's pushed on you, thrown in your face, and or not, you still wear that every day. So for me, from day one, and certainly not now, but I can't necessarily pinpoint when, there was this long period of proving that whatever you give me, whatever baton you give me, I can take it, I can run with it, and I can make it better, and I can take it higher. And it was a long period of doing that. And maybe it may have been somewhere in the monkey shoulder days, maybe year 2 or something, where I reached a place for myself of not having to prove any longer that I could, because they knew. You wouldn't have entrusted this brand to me that is on fire if you didn't trust that I could take it, run with it, and smash a home run. And then certainly getting the call to come back to Hendrick's, which is, for Latin, and no shade to my single malt whiskey fan bam over there with Balvenia Glenfiddich, love y'all to death. But Hendrick's it's the baby. It's what we call the Powerball, and anyone who knows it could see it. So to ride the rocket, to climb the ladder, to make the strides, to do the proving, to literally wear this cloak of having to be better, faster, stronger, brighter, more strategic, and, then make it to Hendrick's, then I knew I was there. There was nothing else I needed to prove other than finding my new voice on Hendrick's, was it? Because Vance Hendrick's 2014 was not Vance Hendrick's 2020 pandemic, let alone 2022. Right. So even though I understood and knew the brand, that's 10 years of the industry changing. So Hendrick's was in a different place. So I had to find my voice. If it was steam, punky, whimsical, whatever Vance in 2010, that wasn't the case in 2020. So I had to find this balance of how do I straddle, being the face and one of many voices of this brand, but also staying true to what's me and what I've grown and evolved to be in being a brand ambassador.
Well, you're doing a damn good job as a brand ambassador, which we all know.
Yeah, kind. Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. I would love to switch gears and talk a little bit about Speed Rack. Can you tell the listeners what Speed Rack is, why they should know about it, and tell me about that moment when you were asked to be the MC of Speed Rack?
Speed Rack is this phenomenal all women female cocktail competition. It's all about speed, strategy, and it's raising money and awareness for breast cancer research. And it travels all across the country and the globe, where these phenomenal women bartenders, who is certainly the voice has grown so much over the years. But at the time when Speed Rack started, and I apologize in advance if I don't get the story right, I'm just happy to be doing the role that I have to do. That voice wasn't as big, and there weren't as many women bartenders getting the recognition that they deserved. So now you have all of these phenomenal, and not just women bartenders, because they're just phenomenal bartenders, but they are ladies that are killing it, and they are getting their platform that has been built with a strong foundation by Lynette and Ivy, and so much support over the years. They now have this strong platform that's given them voice and stage that's uniquely theirs to shine and show their skills, and while doing all of that, raise money for a cause in which is needed. And as the host, my role in the scheme of it all and the grand plan is so minute, and I want it to be minute because it's not about me. I always start with it's not about me, it's about the ladies, because it is. However, I recognize what I'm able to stir and create from an energy place on the stage and on their microphone, that one helps to put the competitors a little more at ease and feel supported, certainly standing there in front of 4 judges that are taking clear, strategic aim, and not necessarily tearing them down, because it's not about that. But, they're these judges, and you've been a repeat judge, Bridget. There are nice judges. There are, I wouldn't necessarily mean judges. There are more harsh judges. And there are judges that are somewhere in the middle. And you all dissect these cocktails and the service and delivery to the T.
There are mean judges.
You said it, not me. You said it.
I'm not one of them. I'm always nice. And
yeah. When I was a judge, I was a nice judge. I'm the comedy guy, not necessarily a comedian, but I just, you want to counterbalance. It wouldn't be a good energy space if everyone was just bringing everybody down. Everyone has something negative. They're just dropping 20-second violations and 30 seconds and 15 seconds. Somebody has to counter that and be fair and be true, but also lighten the mood. So I count it a true honor, honestly. An honor.
What was that call like? What was that moment like when you accepted that role as the MC? Because for the listeners that maybe are not aware of Speed Rack, or when you talk about stirring the energy in that room, the energy is high and it's hot and it's wild and it's so much fun and it's very positive. I feel like it's such a positive space to be in, which is one of the reasons whenever they ask me to be a judge, I'm always happy to accept.
I know that they're getting ready to come out with a new book, but if they were able to
Yes.
also come out with like bottled energy from Speed
Yeah.
Rack,
How
literally just
about it?
bottle
How
whatever
about it?
energy is floating, bottle it up, and then sell that, we would be doing all right and better for it in the world. I owe, I believe I owe my current position as host. A lot of credit goes to my good friend LP, Lauren Peller O'Brien, because I believe that she was supposed to, and life is life. I believe she was supposed to be a judge at Charleston Wine and Food, or Food and Wine, a couple years ago, and she couldn't make it. And I think she needed to stand in. We both live in Washington D.C. And I think she suggested me to stand in as judge. I stood in as judge down there, and again, I'm just being me, just being Vance, speaking how I speak, and joking how I joke, and doing what I do. And I think that Lynette and Ivy enjoyed what I was able to bring out of the fellow judges on the stage, and the banter and everything with the current host at the time. And then they asked me to judge Georgia, I think was next for the following season. And I'd always, from a brand perspective, always wanted to work with Speed Rack. It just never worked out. Didn't work out for years for whatever reasons. So when I got the call to stand in as judge, and then got the call to host, it wasn't even about the brand that I work on. It was about knowing what I could bring to the table, what I could bring to the stage to help support them, their cause, and the phenomenal women who are slaying it, shaking it, stirring it, and grooving on that stage.
One of the things that I love about Speed Rack is that they put their money where their mouth is. They really, really do some great work behind the scenes for breast cancer awareness, for breast cancer charities, and to help ultimately to find a cure. I just want to share with you a very quick story. I had always done Speed Rack in honor of my friend Stacy, who died. She wound up dying of breast cancer about 5 years ago, single mom of 5 children. And I remember getting the call from Lynette saying Speed Rack would love to donate some funds in her honor to the hospice.
Wow.
Something that her children couldn't do. They didn't have anything. They had no money,
Wow.
And so I'm always happy to jump in anytime that they ask me to, but I've seen the work that they do. I've seen when they reach out in the way that they do, how it affects a family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful. And so as much fun as we're having there, behind the scenes, they're also doing the work.
Yeah, that is, and that matters, right? Because there's a lot of organizations these days that do a lot of talking, right?
Yep.
A lot of organizations do a lot of collecting, and they do a lot of trips to the bank, to make deposits, but you don't necessarily see the post, right? Where are the withdrawals and where are the withdrawals going? So that's beautiful to get that story from you and the things that I've seen from them. They are doing good work. And again, for the organization and for the women who graced that stage, and, for everyone affected. My paternal grandmother, she passed away from breast cancer. Everyone knows someone. If you don't, you know someone who knows someone or was affected. So it's, as I said, an honor anytime I get the call, anytime I step on this stage, anytime I'm able to grab that microphone. It is with purpose, because I know what needs to be done in that room so that we can raise as much money as possible, because it's serious.
Yeah. Yeah. And you make it really fun too. I mean,
thank you.
Such a fun time. What's next for you, Vance?
Ooh, if that was the $1 billion question. I don't know. Immediately, I have, as far as this career currently goes, I have climbed and reached a space that I believe I deserve to relish for a while, if that makes any sense, right? You climb a bit, and sometimes you just need to ride it and just look and survey the ride, survey where you are, and then maybe that helps you see what potentially could be next. Whenever the time comes to consider what's next, I think that, again, for me, I love hosting. I love creating a space and producing events and activations and experiences that make people feel things, right? That quote of, people might not remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel, from Maya Angelou. It's true. And I recognize that. So I don't know what it is, but I know it'll be running my mouth or producing, help manage, bring to life something for others. I know that whenever Steve Harvey retires from the many, many, many things he does on television of hosting game shows and talk shows and all of those things, I would gladly take that over. Give me my own show, literally. Move over, Steve Harvey. And
Yes.
else. Move over, Ryan Seacrest. Like all of those who have those roles, multifaceted. I could see myself doing that. And of course, for me, we would love for it to be geared towards a 90% audience, but my heart is in our industry. It's in the beverage industry. So kind of finding that role for myself within our world is kind of what I've been stirring on the stove, if you will.
I love it. I love it. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at VTWiseGuy. By no means am I wise. Not at all. Not at all. I just love to make people feel good. So yeah, catch me on the gram. Of course, I'm with Hendrick. So you need any information about that or cocktails, go to hendricksgin.com. And man, this has been fun.
It's been fantastic. I hope that you'll come back. Would you come back as a repeat guest? We don't have many. I think we've had one, maybe two we're almost at 200 episodes. So, but I would love to have you back because I think we still have a lot more to talk about.
Sure.
And I would love to dig a little bit deeper into some of the things that you mentioned. I think our listeners would be super interested in hearing more from you, Vance. And with that, on behalf of the Served Up family, I want to wish you just some great health and a lot of peace. Thank you so much for coming on Served Up.
I appreciate it, Bridget. And Served Up Fam Bam, thanks so much for joining in. And anytime you're ready for me, I will come back. Gladly.
Amazing. I would love it.
Thanks for listening. Served Up is brought to you by Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. Produced by Zunu.online. Music by We Killed the Lion can be found on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to be notified of future Served Up episodes. Cheers!